So you build wealth, you created accounts, whether it's retirement or taxable. Maybe you have investment that is outside of the Wall Street, like income producing real estate. Maybe you have a business and now you're starting to think through, I should probably figure out what happens to this stuff if I am to pass, and where do things go? And I'd like to be able to take care of my family. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about broad picture estate planning and why you should consider doing it. Welcome to Elephant Corner Financial Lab. My name is Nev Kraguljevic. I'm a financial planner. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about estate planning and kind of how to think about it. And we're not going to go into the weeds because this is such a big and vast thing. And one piece to make sure that I mention before we get into this, I am not an attorney. I cannot provide legal advice. I do not provide investment advice. This is only for educational entertainment purposes and to get you to think and reach out to the right professionals who can actually help you build things and create it. This is really meant to open your mind, to get you to start thinking about different methods and different things that we A, do in financial planning, B, should be all thinking about whether you do have a financial planner or not. So one of the pieces that I always talk about with my clients is that estate planning, right? And we look at things like, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Do you have a financial power of attorney? Do you have the medical proxy? Do you have like, what do you all have? How do we set you up so that should something happen to you, your family is still okay and you are still okay, right? Because some of the part of the estate planning is not necessarily just when you pass, it's also when you become incapacitated, meaning you no longer have cognitive abilities, or right, like maybe you have cognitive abilities but like you have mobility issues. So there's all kinds of different things and reasons to think about. In today's episode, we're really going to focus narrowly on leaving the assets to, right, like for folks that have children. Now most of the folks, when they are partnered, when they're married, tend to leave their accounts to their spouses, and that's not necessarily a bad strategy. It's actually a really good strategy. There's right, like, of course you want to take care of your spouse, like, come on now. uh, so but part of it is folks tend to think about, well, what do I do for my children? Or maybe you don't have a spouse but you have a child or a few children, and you're thinking, well, I'm just going to leave things to them. Now, one of the things that you likely know is that there are, I'm going to go to the whiteboard, is that there is ability, right, to put a, so we're going to talk about the accounts. Okay, so this is going to be like your savings, let's say IRA, 401k, right, etc. So accounts, bank accounts, uh, brokerage accounts, accounts. Uh, all of those accounts have ability to like pass on things to your heirs or whomever you want for that matter, by simply filling out a beneficiary form. I find that a lot of folks don't do that at all. And so if you're one of those folks, or you're saying, I don't even know, it might not be a worst idea to at least check to see, hey, have you done it? And then if you need obviously like bigger help of like, how do I do this and how do I select, and working with somebody who can help you with that might be a good idea. But at least checking and verifying, if you have done it and you've done it years ago, again, check and verify because things have changed, like, for example, like I'm going to use myself as an example. Years ago when I set up an account, I would go in and set up a beneficiary, and I put my mom as beneficiary, right, for my account. So I was like, all right, well, no kids, wasn't married, so I was like, all right, if something should happen to me, like, I worked hard for this money, I've been saving it, I want to make sure that my family gets it. So I put mom as beneficiary. So if something should have happened to me, everything would have gone to mom. Well, my mom passed, right? And so money going to mom no longer makes sense. So going in to change a beneficiary does make sense for me. And it made a lot of sense for me. If mom passed, it doesn't make sense to do that anymore. So for that reason, we tell folks, like, check it, take a look at it. Maybe you left it to somebody who passed, or maybe you left it to somebody that like no longer needs it, or maybe now you have a child and want to make sure that they're included, or maybe now you're married, like, all these different things, right? So it passes on by the contract, and the contract is that you go in and it says transfer on death. So uh, Todd might be, you might see it. Todd, what is this Todd? It's transfer on death. So you can do that with brokerage accounts, savings, checking, 401ks, IRAs, life insurance policies, all these different things where you can name the beneficiaries. And whenever possible, naming beneficiary makes sense. Now, again, most people will leave it to their spouse. Maybe they leave it to the parents. But if you have children, leaving it directly to a minor child could be highly problematic. Why? Well, they're minors. As minors, they can't really own things. Like, right? Like if you were to open a savings account for your child, it will be a custodial account. So, like, they're a beneficiary of it when they become of age, but up until that point, you're sort of in charge, right? So, for that reason, leaving things to minor children is not a good idea, and it creates a lot of problems. Now, I know you want to do right by your kids, right? And you want to take care of them, and that's great. However, leaving it directly to them creates a problem. And that goes for primary or contingent beneficiaries. So one of the things that when I work with my clients, I always look and say, all right, who are your beneficiaries? And more often than not, I will find that minor children are listed. You definitely want to shift that and move it so that they are not directly listed. And I know you're saying, like, but wait, I work so hard and I want to take care of my kids. Of course, you want to take care of your kids. I mean, come on now, right? We all have a heart. And so, of course, you want to do this. So, instead of naming a person directly, right? Let's assume that this is your child, and I'm pretty certain they're much cuter than my little crude drawing. But let's assume this is your child. So, instead of leaving it directly to your minor child, right? We wouldn't want to do this. We would actually want to bypass and create a trust, okay, that is going to become a beneficiary. Now, the trust is going to name a trustee, okay, trustee, okay, and that trustee can be you, right, for right now. And then when you pass, you name an adult, right, like somebody of age. Your spouse, your parents, your siblings, your best friend, an attorney, a bank. I don't care, right? Like name whomever you want. It's your business. But you say, I want the beneficiary, okay, beneficiary to be my child. So now what ends up happening is that you are still accomplishing what you want to do. However, you're not going directly to a minor that cannot take possession over it, and it creates a problem. So you would go in, you would work with your financial planner, you would work with attorneys, you would create a trust, right? There's all kinds of different trusts. So again, work with your professional, which one. Then you would name trustee while you're living, trustee, um, you know, when you pass, and then you name a beneficiary, and you can still take care of your minor children with it. Okay, so that's one piece. The second piece is that we also have a thing, right? Like you might also have, for example, real estate, right? So let's draw real estate, right? And this could be your primary residence. It could be investment property. It doesn't really matter what it is. But these things don't have like list the beneficiary here. Like there's no such thing. Now, ownership is how you can control it, right? So maybe you can control it with people that you want to make beneficiaries. Or an easy way to also do it is just to be able to put it in a trust. So fund that trust with it. And again, you can name whatever beneficiaries you want, including minor children. So that's another thing to think about. Now, one of the other pieces that I also frequently talk about is if you have minor children, right? So like that's one way to kind of like how to leave it. Now, for some folks who are like, well, I don't know, if I feel comfortable with that, I don't want to pay, I don't want to have a trust, it doesn't make sense. That's fine, right? There's a will, and one of the things that we always tell folks, like with minor children, you want to have a will and a trust, but at least have a will, because you can also name a guardian who is going to be taking care of your children should something happen to you while they're still minors. Again, you want to review that on a regular basis because once they are an adult, guardian no longer makes sense, right? So you need to change things and shift things around. But setting it up does make sense because that way you make your wishes very clear. You can also put in and name things that are not easy to like put into the accounts and stuff. Like maybe you have, I don't know, heirloom jewelry that your great grandmother left to you and so bequested, and so now you can bequest it to whomever you want. So those are the different things that you can do, including taking care of your pets, right? So if you have furry children, like I do, this is a great way to also put in provisions of how to take care of them, who will take care of them, who will watch over them, and you're really setting up these structures that can help you out. The final two pieces that are really important when we're thinking about estate planning as a whole is to consider setting somebody up as your financial, giving them a financial power of attorney. This is not necessarily when you pass. This is more like if you become incapacitated. Not that long ago, I was badly injured. And so, right, like we're talking like surgeries, can't walk, can't move, can't do anything. But guess what? Life continues, right? Bills show up. Things need to be taken care of. And so without financial power attorney, like who goes and takes care of that? So having giving somebody a financial power of attorney, creating that document and giving it to them, making sure that other places have it, creates a very easy process that should something happen to you, somebody else can go and act on your behalf as if they were you. So they can go in and collect the paychecks. They can go in and pay bills. They can go in, like they can go on and help you as the life continues. Now, as I said, because they can behave as you do, you probably want to think through of whom you want to name that because you really need to be able to trust this person immensely. Because again, they can behave as you, so they can do things as you would. So you want to make sure that it's somebody you trust and somebody that will have your best interest at heart and somebody that will behave and act in the way that you would. And if you're at least, not like I was physically incapacitated for a while. So if you're mentally still at capacity, they will check in with you. And if not, they know you well enough to say, I'm fairly certain this is what they would want to do. Speaking of, if you are mentally not capacitated, you also want to have a medical or healthcare proxy, right? It's basically like a medical power of attorney, if you think about it. And that basically, you name an individual who can speak on your behalf as to your wishes should you become hospitalized and your cognitive abilities are gone. They get to decide, whether, keep the machine running or turn it off, feeding yay, feeding no, end the life, don't end the life, surgery yes, surgery no, experimental drug yes, experimental drug no. Now again, if your cognitive abilities are all there, then fine, you get to make all of the decisions. But life is anything but predictable, at least mine is. Things happen and I'm like, well, I didn't plan for that one, but here we are. So planning for unplanned, planning for unpredictable, and naming folks. And also when you create these documents, you're also able to put in your thoughts on paper. So when you give it to somebody, whether it's your partner, your spouse, your adult children, your parents, best friend, cousin, I don't care who you give it to, who you name, right? That's your own private and personal right to do that. You're giving them a guide of if something was to happen to me, like here is what I would want, here is what my wishes are, so that they are not having to make a difficult decision on their own, right? So think of this as a gift to yourself and a gift to your loved ones in multiple facets and multiple ways. So there you go, folks. Hopefully you have learned something new, something to consider about, something to think through, and take a look at what you have, what you don't have, and fill in the gaps. Until next time, stay forever money blessed.